Hey friends, how are we doing? Can you all hear me okay? I'm doing a new setup with my audio, so hopefully I'm coming through it nice and clear. Good to see all of you. How are you doing? I gotta fix this. There we go. Welcome. Yeah, welcome in. Today we're gonna be talking about immigration and why do Christian nationalists hate immigrants so much. I'm not sure if you've been following the news lately, but there has been some pretty unprecedented things happening when it comes to immigration. And I think it's important for us to kind of go through some of this stuff and kind of unpack it a little bit, because while it's certainly true that fascism and authoritarianism is a thing, I think a lot of people in media, mainly the mainstream media and even to a degree progressive media outlets, really don't either understand or don't realize that there's a theology to some of this stuff as well. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to, that was weird. We're going to play a few videos, and I just want to kind of highlight how Christian nationalists really fuse their own political ideologies and how they kind of hide their theology. And the result is that we have a president that is being fueled by the far right to do things that are wild. I mean, we are literally kidnapping students in America on green cards or who have green cards or visas. We are kidnapping them with plainclothes police officers and whisking them away, sometimes over 1,000 miles from their home with no lawyer present. That is unbelievable that we are doing this as a country. And I think it's important for us to kind of get into. So welcome in. My name is Tim. I am the creator of the new Evangelicals. If you are enjoying this stream so far, if you could do me a favor and give this video a like, it will really help get it out to more people, because we're all trying to play the game of the algorithm. That's just the reality. We're hoping that YouTube goes, oh, people like this video. Let's spread it to more folks as we're going live. So that is the name of the game. I can see your comments. It's good to see all of you here. I love going live. It's such a good time. And honestly, sometimes I don't like, frankly, I don't like doing research alone. So I do these lives because I get to do it with you, which is always nice. And we get to talk about things and do all that. So where do we begin? Well, let's just start here. For a long time, and I have some videos that we'll go through, the right wing has had a history of anti-immigrant sentiments. And we are looking at the fruit of that today, like perhaps no other time in recent history anyway. I mean, America does have a history of doing things that we're going to be looking at in a second here, but it is really bewildering to watch it happen in the country that you live in real time. So here's what I want to do. This is a clip that we're going to pull up from 60 Minutes. Okay, this is a 2-minute clip that I want to play for you. I want you to first understand exactly what is going on in America, what is going on in our country, and I want you to see the propaganda, because I'm not sure if you all heard about this, but maybe a week or two ago, there was a narrative going around that the Trump administration has taken gang members off the streets of America. Right, there was a mass deportation where we took 75 people who were part of MS-13 and other high-profile gangs, and we deported them to make the country great again and to make it safe again. Check out this video from 60 Minutes. I want you to see it. And it's about a 2-minute clip. We'll play the whole thing straight through. We'll get your thoughts, and then we'll get into it, friends. Check this out, and then we're going to unpack immigration and Christian nationalism. Here we go.
The shackled men were forced to lower their heads and bodies as they were unloaded from buses and taken to El Salvador's mega prison known as the Terrorism Confinement Center, or SECOT. Andre Hernandez Romero was among them.
Andre is a 31-year-old Venezuelan. He's a makeup artist. He is a gay man. He loves to do theater. He was part of a theater troupe in his hometown.
Lindsay Tozlowski, Andre's attorney, says he does not have a criminal record in the United States or Venezuela. She says he left his home country last year because he was targeted for being gay and for his political views. Last May, Andre made the long trek north through the Darien Gap to Mexico, where he eventually got an appointment to seek asylum in the United States. At a legal border crossing near San Diego, he was taken into custody while his case was processed. Did he have a strong asylum case?
We believe he did have a strong asylum case. He had also done a credible fear interview, which is the very first part of seeking asylum in the United States, and the government had found that his threats against him were credible and that he had a real probability of winning an asylum claim.
But last month, Andrei did not appear for a court hearing.
Our client, who was in the middle of seeking asylum, just disappeared. One day he was there, and the next day we're supposed to have court, and he wasn't brought to court.
You used the word disappeared.
Yeah, I use that word because that's what happened.
But Andrei did appear in photos taken by Time magazine photographer Philip Holsinger, who was there when the Venezuelans arrived at Secot. Holsinger told us he heard a young man say, "I'm not a gang member, I'm gay, I'm a stylist." And then he cried for his mother as he was slapped and had his head shaved. By comparing Holsinger's photographs to photos of Andrei's tattoos taken by the government, we were able to confirm that this is Andrei. His lawyer, who was representing him pro bono, had never seen these photos before.
It's horrifying to see someone who we've met and know as a sweet, funny artist in the most horrible conditions I could imagine.
You fear for Andrei's safety in there.
Absolutely. We have grave concerns about whether he can survive.
Okay. So I wanted to play this clip because I found it on the internet maybe a couple of days ago. And I'm looking at that. I mean, for those of you maybe listening on podcasts later on, the photos, Andrei is stripped naked, completely humiliated, and he's not a gang member. And it turns out that according to 60 Minutes, I want to find the actual stat, friends, because I want to make sure I'm accurate. Let's see, 60 Minutes, Venezuela. Okay, according to 60 Minutes, okay, I'll pull this up here so we can all see it together as we're learning. But the U.S. has sent 238 migrants to Salvador mega prison. Documents indicate most have no apparent criminal records. None. Okay? This is not about fighting the, quote, migrant crime wave. That's not what this is about. And there was a narrative going around, and people like Charlie Kirk and others were saying, who doesn't want gang members off the streets? This is a good thing. But they lied. They lied. The Trump administration does not care if these people have a criminal history or not. They just don't want them in the country anymore. And they're hiding behind the pretense of, oh, these are gang members. But it's not true. It's just not true. And this is really important to recognize, okay, friends, because we talk a lot about on this channel and on the Tim and April show, which, by the way, is coming back next Thursday. Woohoo! About Christian nationalism. And my friend Jamar Tisby, Dr. Jamar Tisby, an amazing historian, he really calls it white Christian nationalism because the white part is important. What are we trying to preserve? When Christian nationalists say we want to make America great again, we want to go back to the glory days, what are they referring to specifically? What things are they looking to preserve, and what things do they want to take over or do they want to eradicate? And the reality is that the immigrant talking point is a major talking point in right-wing spaces, okay? If you listen to Fox News for a day, if you've listened to talk radio like I did for a long time growing up, if you go to America Fest hosted by Turning Point USA, which I also go to, you will hear this over and over again. In fact, let me play a clip. I want to show you just how dehumanizing these folks are when it comes to immigrants. Okay, now this video I'm going to play. This is Charlie Kirk. Trigger warning for all of you. And by the way, friends, great to see you in the chat. I can see your chats. It's good to have you here. I want to play this clip from Charlie Kirk. Now, this was taken at America Fest in 2023. America Fest is what I call the biggest Christian nationalist gathering in America. If you want to see my recap of this video, or of this event, or last year in December's event, you can go to our YouTube channel. It's called I Went to the Biggest Christian Nationalist Event in the Country. I do a full recap. But I want you to hear how people like Charlie Kirk talk about immigration. Okay, this is about a 1.5 minute long clip. I'm going to play the whole thing. I might pause in between. This is him on the left, Charlie Kirk. On the right is Michelle Bachmann. She kind of had a little blip on the radar and then kind of dropped off, and now she finds herself doing this kind of stuff. Let's hear what he has to say.
Greatest cities in America.
Oh, yeah.
And it is the perfect example of the Great Replacement. A city that was safe and was peaceful, and then you bring in a bunch of third worlders that don't share our values with tolerance, and it gets destroyed.
Okay, let's pause it right there. So the video comes in late, but Charlie, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, is talking about Minneapolis, Minnesota. Which, by the way, I looked this up when this video came out because I actually tracked this stuff. And Minneapolis, Minnesota doesn't even crack the top 10 most dangerous cities list. Okay, and so this narrative from Charlie that this once great city brought in a bunch of third worlders and now the city is destroyed is complete and utter nonsense. It's a lie. It doesn't exist. And of course, as Melissa brought up here in the chat, third worlders, yes, exactly. The language of third worlders is incredibly dehumanizing, because think about it. When you hear that term, who do you think of? What kind of person fills your imagination? Probably not someone that's very white with blonde hair or blue eyes. Charlie is intentionally invoking this sense of people who don't look like us. And he's setting up this narrative that, look, these third worlders, quote unquote, come to our country and they ruin cities. They ruin everything that's good about America. And this trope goes back way in history. This is not new. And that's what you need to realize, friends. This is not a new talking point. And I'm going to say something that might freak some of you out who don't know. This is straight up Ku Klux Klan propaganda. This narrative that immigrants are ruining the country, that third worlders are destroying cities, does not come out of a vacuum. It comes out of the KKK, comes out of white supremacy. And again, I know that this might shock some of you out there. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. If you listen to the show, it won't shock you. But the KKK is inherently a Christian organization, a Protestant Christian organization. They base their beliefs off of a very distorted but Christian view of the Bible and of Jesus. Now, again, emphasis on distorted. But this language comes from somewhere, okay? It comes from somewhere. It's dehumanizing, and it's used to paint a narrative to the general population in America that these people who are not really full humans are evil, they're extra violent, they're going to destroy cities. And then he gives this nonsensical statement. Again, the clip cut off, but I'm 90% sure he's talking about Minneapolis, Minnesota. But I remember looking this up at the time of this video when it came out, and I looked up the city that he referred to. It was not even in the top 10 most dangerous cities in America. It's nonsense. Let's keep going. Now he pivots.
There's a couple topics I want to keep diving into here, and one of them is the people who should be most against this importation of Muslims into our country are Jews, and I think that's starting to happen. Wouldn't you agree, Michelle? More and more people in the Jewish community say, we don't want them here. We don't want these people in our country. You were just in Israel. Tell us about it.
I was just in Israel, and the Jewish people are extremely tolerant people. They have the Museum of Tolerance. And so they bend over backwards to try and help and accommodate. I was living and working in Kibbutz Be'eri when I was an 18-year-old. I just went there last week. And the people in Be'eri tend to be more liberals, and they were the ones that would go and get Gazans and take them to the hospital and take care of them. They were shocked. They were more shocked than anyone in Israel that this happened with Gaza, because they'd extended an olive branch. They were loving the people in Gaza. They were floored that people that they'd invited to eat in their homes, that they had advocated for, came over, slit their throats, killed their children, stole everything, raped the women. It's more egregious than anyone can imagine.
This is a very important point that Michelle is making.
So
the
unreal.
People who chose to live right on the Gaza border, they did so as a statement saying we can all coexist.
Yes.
In fact, there was one man where he would fly kites is called, it was, you know this story? He would fly these kites saying that we need peace. We need this tension.
Okay, I stopped recording there. This is an older clip that I had in my backlog that I wanted to bring up here. But essentially, I mean, what do you even say to this? The whole narrative is ridiculous. I mean, again, friends, so this was recorded December 2023, right after October 7th happened. We did a 4-part series interviewing experts on the region, including a Jewish person and a Christian Palestinian and a historian, to help us better understand what actually is going on between Israel and the Palestinian people. We as an organization are very clear that we stand against the ongoing genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza, 100%. But that's not the narrative here that they're selling you, right? The narrative is to reinforce these stereotypes. Muslims are destroying America. They hate all Jewish people. All Jewish people, are terrified by Muslims. And like someone said in the chat, Judaism is not monolithic at all. In fact, some of the loudest voices at protests in colleges are and were Jewish people. It's not monolithic, like anything, right? Christianity is not monolithic. Judaism isn't monolithic. Islam isn't monolithic. Nothing is monolithic. But Christian nationalism believes in creating a monolith. They believe in assimilation. And so, again, there's an inherent bias here because Charlie and Michelle Bachmann, both of them absolutely believe that America is a Christian nation that must be maintained as a Christian country that looks and believes and acts just like them. Just like them. And what they'll do is they're going to paint any foreign person who's not like them as the outsider who's looking to destroy the country. This is exactly how Christian nationalism functions and what it believes, and it's embedded with right-wing politics to get this done. As we just showed a minute ago, that 60 Minutes video, we now have an administration fueled by this belief that America needs to maintain its cultural identity, which is what? Well, it's whiteness, right? Which is why the Trump administration is sending plainclothed ICE agents to take students off the streets and to whisk them away 1,000 miles with absolutely no legal representation, even though they're here legally. And this is the key, right? Because think about how this narrative started. I'm not sure where you all were when you were, in your teenage years or early 20s. Maybe some of you are still in your early 20s. I don't know. But I grew up on talk radio. I grew up on Rush Limbaugh. I grew up on Sean Hannity. I grew up on all those guys. And what was the push? Illegal immigration was the key, right? We have to fight illegal immigration. These illegal immigrants are destroying the country. They're destroying it. And so what has happened is that the Trump administration ran on that platform, but obviously they didn't mean just people who were here undocumented. They meant the visa and green card holders and even legal citizens. There was a story that came out a few weeks ago of a 10-year-old who was overcoming a brain tumor. And because her parents, I believe, were undocumented or maybe like they were asylum seekers, whatever, the Trump administration deported the girl recovering from brain cancer back to Mexico. I'm not lying. Let me pull up the article here so I can show you guys. I think it's really important for us to point out. Brain. Yeah, let's take a look here. This is real. This is real stuff. And don't forget, this is supposedly how a Christian country behaves. Friends, as I'm getting this article, if you're new to the stream, please feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I love doing this work. We're here to kind of combat Christian nationalism and to expose what's going on. So this is from NBC News. U.S. citizen child recovering from brain cancer removed to Mexico with undocumented parents. The Texas family was on their way to an emergency medical checkup, they said, when they were detained at an immigration checkpoint. A family that was deported to Mexico hopes they can find a way to return to the U.S. and ensure their 10-year-old daughter, who is a U.S. citizen, can continue her brain cancer treatment. Immigration authorities removed the girl and 4 of her American siblings from Texas on February 4th when they deported their undocumented parents. This is real stuff. Elections have consequences. This girl is real. She is recovering from brain cancer. It's unreal. It's unreal. The parents had done the trip at least 5 other times in the past, passing through an immigration checkpoint every time without any issue, according to attorney Danny Woodward from the Texas Civil Rights Project, a legal advocacy and litigation organization representing the family. Wow. Their daughter. Look, I mean, I'm not sure about you guys. I have kids. I would do whatever I could. I would do whatever I could for my kid if they had brain cancer. And the fact that we are deporting these people is so inhumane. Again, I have to ask, for the people out there who voted for Trump in the name of Christianity and biblical values, what biblical values are we talking about? You know, Jesus tells us that what we do for the least of these, we do unto him. The Bible has many different directives to welcome the stranger, welcome the immigrant. If you're going to claim to be a Christian nationalist, if you're going to claim that the Bible is the authoritative word of God, that is, as I was taught, the moral rule book for life, you might want to start listening to the parts that talk about this stuff, because there's no justification for a quote-unquote Christian country to treat people, especially children, like this. But this goes back farther. I want to do this, and I'm going to give you guys some stats. This is one more video. This is a shorter one. Again, of Charlie Kirk. I have 2 of these I wanted to bring up because I thought that they were relevant, and I want you to hear how they have a an they have upper, what's a good way of putting this? They have a job to do. Okay, Charlie Kirk and people like him, the right-wing media sphere, they have a job to do, and the job is to sell a narrative of fear so that way them and their politicians can maintain power and control. Okay, so this is in 2021. This is a while ago. This was after Trump got out of office, after the insurrection happened. Now the Biden administration is in power, and here's how Charlie is tying things together that almost make no sense. In fact, not almost, they make no sense. But this is how vicious right-wing media pundits have been for years now when it comes to immigration. Listen to this.
There is a massive supply chain issue right now happening in our country. And we've talked about this for quite some time, but now the White House has come out and they've said that there might be shortages as Christmas approaches, that there will just be some things that people cannot get. Quote from Reuters, White House officials are scrambling to relieve global supply bottlenecks, choking U.S. ports, highways, and railways, warning that Americans may face higher prices and some empty shelves this Christmas season. The White House warning comes as shipping containers remain backlogged as ports on both of the country's coasts. Recent reports say that 65 cargo ships are waiting to dock the high-traffic port of Los Angeles, which is currently full. Additionally, 8,000 shipping containers are stuck at the port of Savannah. Now, I believe the same way that I believe that inflation was intentional, I think this bottleneck is intentional. Why? To try to create an argument for mass immigration. Can't find the labor, can't unpack the boats, let's get an immigration bill through. Remember, almost everything the other side tries to advocate for is around this idea of expanding the amount of people coming into the country.
There you go. I mean, how do you go from point A to point Z in like 1 second? Oh, we have an issue with bringing imports in. People are waiting to unpack stuff. You know why? You know why? In Charlie's mind, this is intentional by the Biden administration so we can get more immigrants in the country. What? What are we talking about here? Now, you might be asking yourself that question. Wait, I don't understand. How could Charlie conflate these two? Charlie believes, and we heard him say it on the other video with Michelle Bachmann, in what's called the Great Replacement Theory. The Great Replacement Theory is a conspiracy theory that says that essentially forces, usually liberals or Democrats, maybe the deep state, etc., that they are working behind the scenes to change the voting demographic of the U.S. by bringing in people who don't look like them. Okay, and this was pushed by, it was really popularized, big time in the 80s by David Duke, who is the former Grand Wizard of the KKK. By the way, David Duke ran for political office many times in the 80s and 90s. Like he's around. He's around. And to see Charlie Kirk and others pick up this same language of the Great Replacement theory and espouse it to their millions of followers should really scare the hell out of us. Because that stuff comes from the Ku Klux Klan. And again, I want to be so clear. I grew up conservative evangelical. Okay, I grew up in a world that was very much biblical inerrancy and conservative values. We weren't talking about the Great Replacement theory when I was a kid in those spaces. And even I knew back then that the KKK is bad. We don't like the KKK. They're not good people. They're racists. And again, this was me in my conservative homeschool days. The fact that we are now here in America where people like Charlie can say the Great Replacement theory is real. And not only is he not booed out of existence on the internet, but his platform grows. And he has the current sitting president on speed dial. And that guy attends his rallies. And now he's actually doing what Charlie wants him to do. To just get rid of, let's face it, brown-skinned people. We're not seeing pictures of white guys with blue eyes and blonde hair being deported off college campuses or being deported, back to Canada. That's not who we're thinking about. That's not who we're aimed at here. It's very clear that they are targeting people who do not have white skin. And that's been the narrative for decades. Right, 9/11. Every Muslim wants to blow up another building in the U.S. Sharia law, the radical Islam, and there's always a new boogeyman that Christian nationalists and Christian nationalism wants you to believe in. And immigration is one of the biggest ones. Here's the crazy part. Here's the craziest part. Okay, people think, oh my gosh, the reason why, Tim, we don't want immigrants here is because they commit crimes. They are bad people. Okay, that is such a misnomer. That is such a load of nonsense. This is data, and you can go to this website, AmericanImmigrationCouncil.org. You can download the whole PDF with citations, so you can fact check me on this. The American Immigration Council compared crime data to demographic data from 1980 to 2022, the most recent data available. The data showed that as the immigrant share of the population grew, the crime rate declined. In 1980, immigrants made up of 6.2% of the U.S. population, and the total crime rate was 5,900 crimes per 100,000 people. By 2022, the share of immigrants had more than doubled to 13.9%, while the total crime rate had dropped by 60.4% to 2,335 crimes per 100,000 people. Specifically, the violent crime rate fell by 34.5%, and the property crime rate fell by 63%. Not to mention, according to the Cato Institute, undocumented immigrants are half as likely to commit crimes as their native-born counterparts. Why? Well, because if you're here and you don't have the proper documentation, chances are you don't want a lot of attraction from law enforcement. The last thing you want is to get arrested on some kind of criminal charge and risk getting deported. But you actually would not believe that if you listen to right-wing media all day. Because what right-wing media does is they're really good at pulling anecdotal evidence up. So, for example, right, the terrible and tragic story of Laken Riley. A really bad thing. A bad thing. What that person did is bad. It's evil. That person should be put in prison. The family of Laken Riley lost a daughter in a vicious and horrific way. Do not misunderstand me. It's bad. But what they'll do is they'll take that story And they'll use it as the proof that now all immigrants are like that, right? They paint with this incredibly broad brush, despite the data showing otherwise, to make their followers believe that there is an imminent threat of an invasion of crime coming from migrants. And again, when you think about a migrant, who do you think about in your head? Who fills it out? It's usually someone with maybe brown or olive skin, who doesn't speak English as their primary language, probably coming from south of the border. That's intentional. That is an intentional play by Christian nationalists to actually make the country as white as possible. They don't believe in a legal process, right? Remember the whole, it became like a meme, but they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, the Haitian immigrants. They were here in Ohio because the governor of Ohio asked them to please come to help us with jobs. They were here legally. They were here documented. They had all the documentation to work. And Trump and JD Vance, is they're inflating this narrative, this bull crap narrative, by the way, right? That, look, these are terrible. They're not as sophisticated as us. They're eating cats and dogs. No proof of that, by the way. None whatsoever. And it caused right-wing media and right-wing people to flock to the town to find these subhuman Haitian immigrants who were eating cats and dogs. And that goes back to colonization. That goes back to the founding of this country, when the immigrants from Europe showed up here and had to tame the savage. It's the same ideology, just being repurposed over and over again, friends. And this is really important to recognize, because we're seeing the outworkings of this ideology now. Students ripped off the streets, parents being separated from their kids. And another unbelievable story of, I'll look it up here so I have it for you guys. I believe his name is Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was also rounded up as part of this big, look, we're taking criminals off the streets and deporting them back to El Salvador. He has a son who is 5 years old who has autism, and his wife found out that he was taken by ICE by seeing him on the news. He's not a criminal. He has no criminal record at all. And he was just whisked away and sent to El Salvador, in one of the most dangerous prisons in the world. Do you understand what's happening? Do you see what is happening? This is one of the biggest goals of Christian nationalism and right-wing MAGA people. They want to keep the country as white as possible again. They're obsessed with birth rates. They're obsessed with marriages, because they don't want other people in this country. Christian nationalism, and this is a data point, okay? I'm going to give you data now. And you can look up my sources here. PRRI is the source I use for a lot of the research on Christian nationalism. They do amazing work on this. They will tell you that, according to their data, Christian nationalists are way more likely to reject pluralism and a multiracial democracy. They don't believe that. They don't believe, largely, that pluralism is a good thing. They don't believe that many people of different backgrounds and ethnicities and cultures make a country great, which is so ironic, right? Because immigrants built this country. Immigrants built this country. We are better together. But that's not how right-wing people see the world. They see the quote-unquote foreigner, the person, which is, just so I can unpack that for you, which is the person who doesn't look or act or talk like them, as the enemy encroaching on their way of life. And I want to kind of paint this picture for you all and kind of give you some details here that this is not new. Let's go to a really easy example, okay? In America, and this again might upset some of you, and by the way, I'm seeing all of your chats. I love the chat. Such good stuff, guys. Thanks for being here. If you're new to the stream, please make sure to give this video a like. It really helps get this out to the people, and on YouTube land. We have to play the algorithm game. So it's good to see you here. Like I said, I love going live. I love having these conversations with you. I think it's so important. So let me kind of paint this picture. White Protestant Christianity in America has largely been responsible for a lot of the country's dark chapters in history, whether it's race-based chattel slavery. Again, white Protestants were some of the ones creating the theology of why God justified the ownership of black people, and there's a whole world that we can dive into, and maybe we will one day. But during Jim Crow and segregation, it was white evangelicals. Who were some of the staunchest supporters of maintaining segregation. Deanna, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. All super chats, all donations go to making this work possible. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. The money does not go to me directly. It goes to the organization so we can keep all this stuff paywall free. Make sure to give this stream a like. It means so much. But I mean, we have to understand this, friends. Like, again, do I have the book? Where is it? Hold on. Oh, here it is. This is one of, I think, the most eye-opening books I read when I was deconstructing and kind of learning more about my own history as a former evangelical. It's called The Bible Told Them So by J. Russell Hawkins. This is a really, really important book because a lot of us, and I'm not sure how you are, I grew up homeschooled, a very loving family. My parents are amazing people, but I grew up in a very white Christian conservative culture. And you're kind of taught these narratives, right? You're taught that Martin Luther King solved racism in the 60s. You're taught that racism really isn't an issue anymore. You're taught that Jerry Falwell, the founder of the Moral Majority, got radicalized because of abortion. And abortion is like one of the biggest ills on America's history, and the other stuff is kind of well, the term is whitewashed for a reason, right? And that's just kind of how it goes. And this book by J. Russell Hawkins, The Bible Told Them So: How Southern Evangelicals Fought to Preserve White Supremacy, really blew my mind because what it showed me was that, and I think he focuses. I haven't read this book in a while. He focuses on the South, mainly South Carolina. And he shows how white evangelicals were the staunchest supporters of segregation from a perspective that God mandated the races stay separate. For a Christian like me, that's a pretty uncomfortable realization, but it is a reality. It's an absolute reality. And what happens is that you start realizing that the Bible and theology were used as a weapon of oppression to maintain the status quo that kept largely, okay, there's always nuance here, but that kept white people at an advantage compared to black people. And that's difficult. I mean, Bob Jones University, a major university in the Christian conservative world, Bob Jones was a staunch segregationist who believed clearly that the Bible was incredibly clear on this issue. In fact, do I have the note up? I'm not sure if I do. I saved one of his sermons. Let's see. I don't have it here, but I saved one of his sermons where he says that those who have a true biblical worldview absolutely understand that the races are to stay separate. And it was people like him that fought the government during integration, saying that it was an encroachment on their religious beliefs that they were being forced to integrate the races on their campuses and on their platforms. And so I say all this because there's a long history of racism in the American evangelical psyche, a long one, and it got reignited during Black Lives Matter. Many white evangelicals maybe had a blip where they thought, okay, this is bad, but then kind of went back down to, oh, well, no, now everything is woke and DEI. And so when that also applies to immigration, right? Again, we don't want people who don't look like us taking over. This is one of the heartbeats behind Christian nationalism. And we are witnessing a Trump administration that is literally doing what is the dream scenario for these Christian nationalists. Guys, we are rounding people up in the streets. I mean, I just read this article. I'll pull it up for you guys. Let me grab it here. Where was it earlier today? I was doing some research on this. Here's one. Look at this. Look at this. University of Florida student deported to Colombia following a traffic stop. An international student studying at the University of Florida has been deported to his home country of Colombia after he was arrested for alleged traffic violations. Traffic violations. Traffic violations. They are looking for any excuse possible to deport people who look like Felipe Velasquez. This is America. This is the America that the majority of white Protestant Christians and evangelicals statistically voted for. Trump was very open about this, right? This was not a secret. It wasn't like Trump was like, guys, I'm running on a platform here. I'm running on a platform of we should welcome the immigrant, right? I'm a good Christian man, and the Bible's clear. We should reform our immigration system, make it easier, make it more, we're the world's most powerful country. Certainly we can reform this. Let's let him in. And then he gets elected. Just kidding. Let's support everyone. No, Trump ran on this. Trump called immigrants poison to the blood of our society. This is what he ran on. And it was so effective. It captured the white evangelical vote. 80+% of white evangelicals voted for Trump in 2016, in 2020, and in 2024. 60% of white Protestants voted for Trump in 2024. And I believe about 55% of white Catholics voted for Trump in 2024. This is a white Christian issue. And the white part is really freaking important because this is the outworking. A lot of the people, especially white evangelicals, listen to right-wing radio, listen to talk radio all the time. That's what they do. And I know that because I grew up in it. They listen to Ben Shapiro, to Matt Walsh, to Charlie Kirk. There's a whole right-wing talk radio world on AM radio that parrots these points 24/7 to convince their listening audience, that immigrants, mainly illegal immigrants, are destroying the country. And it worked. The fear-mongering worked, which is wild, right? Because think about it. Think about it for a second. We still cannot get affordable wages in this country. Our debt is going up. Medical debt is through the roof. College loans are completely out of grasp affordable education is not a thing for most Americans in the country. More and more people have to work, mom and dad. Or whoever, families, both partners have to work in the house or outside the house to make it work. And these folks are concerned about migrants who are half as likely to commit violent crimes, who want to work, who want to make a better way for their families. They're concerned about transgender athletes in sports. That's the power of right-wing propaganda. Right now, guys, let's just do this while we're here. This is the power of going live. We could just go here. Let's just for a second. Let's just look up. Okay, so let's do this. Let's check out the stock market and just see. Let's see. Is there a graph I can find? Gosh, I'm not good at this stuff in the moment. Let's see. No. How do I look at this stuff? Okay, I'll try this. Hopefully you can see this. So this is okay, January, February, April, boom, tariffs. The thing tanks. And we have people like Benny Johnson and right-wing media pundits saying, don't worry about your 401k. Yeah, the stock market's down, but it's supposed to happen. What? What is going on? The term Trump derangement syndrome, I know it's used as a slur, but I would use it towards Trump supporters. This dude is okay. Let me put it this way, friends, and tell me what you think about this in the comments. I'll look for your thoughts. And if you're new to the stream, please make sure to give this video a like. It helps get out to more people. Glad that you're here. But okay, think about the logic of this for a minute. 2016, right? I'm a Christian. I'm a worship drummer in the church as a volunteer, and I want to love my neighbor well. I'm all in on the Jesus thing. I'm all in my whole life, Jesus. I want to follow the teachings of Jesus. I want to follow the fruit of the Spirit. I'm doing my devotions. I'm into the Bible. I'm into all of that stuff, right? Trump comes on the scene in 2015, and I'm like, oh, this guy's kind of gross. And then, you know, the classic story that many of us have been through, the leaked Hollywood Access tape comes out. And Trump's saying that, oh, look, I would date my daughter if she wasn't my daughter, and I'm on the cover of Playboy, and I'm like, this is weird. I don't like any of this. As a Christian, this goes against my core beliefs that I was taught and that I believe in. And these evangelical leaders, many of them were like, well, look, Tim, we don't need a pastor-in-chief, right? We need a commander-in-chief. And Trump is going to make America great again. He's going to make the economy great again. So, yeah, we're not a fan of some of his antics. He's a little vulgar. Yeah, he brags about grabbing women. Okay. He lies a lot. Okay. Again, every single thing that Trump does, I was taught as a Christian man to never be like this person. I mean, the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, right? I was taught to embody that. Trump is a fail on every single one of those things. But somehow, many white Christian leaders go, that's our dude. Okay, that happens. Trump goes from 2016 to 2020. He lies through his teeth. An insurrection happens. And I'm told I still, you know, am not a true Christian because I voted for President Biden. And I'm told that Biden's tanking the economy, and this is why Biden's so terrible, right? Because he's ruining the economy and inflation, which, by the way, to be fair, I absolutely felt this thing of inflation. My grocery bills went up. I feel all of that. I was not charitable towards Biden for that reason as well. I have plenty of critiques to make about President Biden and the, you know, neoliberal ideals. It's a whole other thing. But my point is that Christian leaders were like, look, Biden's tanking the economy. Inflation is up. We need Trump to make America great again. Trump gets into office and tanks our economy with this tariff war, which every economist that I can find bipartisanly is like, this is not good. Even Ben Shapiro, friends, Ben Shapiro is like, Trump is kind of a fool for doing this. And now I'm told by the same people, well, look, guys, money isn't everything. The economy isn't everything. Interesting. So I don't take Trump as a moral character, but he's not even a great leader, and I have to ignore that. Mind-blowing that we're here. And now Trump is deporting our immigrant neighbors. He's sending ICE to go after these people, and we're told that this is making America great again. That makes no sense. It doesn't add up. It only adds up if there is racism behind this. Because the economy isn't doing good. We're deporting people who are here legally, who have gone through legal processes. And Trump's like, yeah, you're gone. Oh, you're a student and you protested Israel? You're deported. I mean, judges are telling Trump, stop doing this. And Trump's like, no, we're not going to stop doing this. It is the epitome of authoritarianism, and it's rooted in white supremacy. That's what this is. And it has a great gloss of Christianity attached to it. It's unbelievable to me that we are here. I want to show you this video. I think we'll really, it's a short little montage. I think that you'll enjoy it. It really hammers home, I think, just the similarities and the rhetoric between some people that you're going to see in a minute and the current right wing. Because what happens is that we have this, I'm not sure if it's a human trait or what, but we do this thing. We do this thing where we minimize what happens in real time. Then we look back on history and go, oh my God, how did that happen? How did we have Jim Crow laws on the books of this country? That's crazy. How did things happen in Germany the way that they happened? That's crazy. But then when it happens now, when things happen now, we minimize it. Oh, it's not as serious. Oh, Trump is just kidding. Oh, the extreme left is making things, they're exaggerating things, etc. Watch this little montage. Just have your mind blown for a minute and a half here, and then we'll come back. Check this out.
We need to be the party of nationalism, and I'm a Christian, and I say it proudly.
I am a Christian, and I'm not ashamed to say it.
We should be Christian nationalists.
A Christian nation.
The church is supposed to direct government, not the opposite.
Christianity is the underpinning of this country, our moral strength, our government rights and responsibilities.
We were founded by very strong Christians. These were men of faith.
Every sign of our Declaration of Independence was, in fact, a Christian.
Anti-racist is a whole weird ideology that, quite frankly, tries to make white people second-class citizens.
White Americans are being treated as second-class citizens.
There are now two standards of justice.
It's a dual system of justice.
They care more about the illegal immigrants at the border than they do the American people. They're giving out handouts to them.
Our country just don't care about us Americans. It's all about a handout to all the illegal immigrants.
The foreign-born population is now growing by 132,000 people every month.
The non-whites are reproducing rapidly.
If we continue on this trajectory, eventually there will be no more native-born Americans.
Our people literally are an endangered species. Our people are having few children. We've got to start protecting our race.
If you're white, you have to go to the back of the line, discriminating against white people.
There is racial discrimination going on right now in this country against massive numbers of white Americans.
How precisely is diversity our strength?
So how is diversity our strength?
And I'll point out, listen, the Democrats are the party of the Ku Klux Klan.
That was a good video from the Daily Show back in the day with Trevor Noah. But it's brilliant because it shows you nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The same talking points that the Ku Klux Klan is using or used, the right wing is using. It's the same stuff with the same outcomes. Brown people, olive-skinned people, people who are not white are being deported, even if they're here illegally. Trump has undone legal protections for migrants like crazy. Why? Why do they want a Muslim ban? Because they're not white European people. This is what it is, friends. We are here. Like, one day, our children are going to read about this time in the history books, hopefully. And they'll go, what was going on? How do people see that? Just like how we look back and say, how was segregation a thing? How were all white schools and all black schools a thing? How did we let it get that bad? That kind of stuff, that ideology is on the rise again. Period. And it has damaging outcomes for the sake of our neighbor. So what do we do? And we'll end the stream on this note, some positive, hopefully, or some what kind of actionables can we do here? First off, let me say something. I had a really amazing experience this past weekend. Okay, I went to the Summit for Religious Freedom in Washington, D.C., hosted by Americans United. They are a bipartisan interfaith movement of secularists and atheists and Christians and all other kinds of people who believe in the separation of church and state and also believe in protecting religious freedom. And I've worked with them before. Andrew Seidel is a good friend of mine. He's over there as one of the lawyers. And what they do during this event is they do something called Hill Day, where they actually bring you to the Hill, to Capitol Hill, so you can actually petition your representative directly. Let me just tell you something that blew my mind. I still can't believe it. I'm not sure about you or how much you know about how our political system works, but I didn't know that you can go to DC, find your representative's office, either in the Senate or Congress. You can walk into their office with no appointment needed and no credentials, and you can give them a letter, or you can tell them to their face what bill you want them to co-sponsor or what bill you don't support, and they have to hear you. They take your feedback very much to heart. And I did that. I petitioned my representative in New Jersey in Washington. And it was two people who were there at the office. The representative, Herb Conaway, is my guy. He wasn't in office. I had a postcard. I wrote, hey, please support this bill, and here's why. I gave it to them, and they said, thank you so much. We'll take it into consideration. And then they emailed me later on saying, thank you for your feedback. And I was like, wow, I didn't know it was that easy. I didn't know that you could just go. I mean, literally, I went through security. I found my reps, office. I opened the door. I said, here you go. And they went, that's great. And I've been told by several people that representatives and senators really take that stuff seriously, especially when it's a handwritten or written note or letter saying, please consider this. And that makes sense, right? If someone is elected, they're going to want to hear from their constituents. So one thing you can do that I think is important is send your representatives something. Send them a letter, send them an email, ask for a meeting, either in person or virtually. I mean, I know not everyone is close to DC. I'm only about an hour and a half train ride, so it's easier for me. But really, get involved in the political process. Tell your representative how you feel about these mass immigration deportations that are unconstitutional, they are illegal, and they are racist. So that's one thing that we could do right away. That, again, blew my mind, friends. Blew my mind. I could not believe it. Just walking right in, I'm like, oh, that's my rep's office. Open the door, and I'm like, okay, here you go. And they went, thank you so much. I'm like, so that's one thing you can do. The other thing is work with local religious institutions to do what you can to become a sanctuary church, mosque, temple for your immigrant neighbor. We have to get localized here too. We have to get on the local level and work with local people to ask the question, what are we doing to protect our migrant neighbors who are being targeted by this dehumanizing and racist regime? And I do mean racist. Some people will tell me, oh, Tim, you're so extreme. It's hyperbolic language. No, it's not. It is truth. My friend Lisa Sharon Harper says we have to be in the business of truth telling. And I agree. This is racist. They're targeting people based on how they look or what they say or where they're from. It's not okay. It's not okay. We have to do better. I know, friends, that a lot of us feel really discouraged by this. I know that we're scared. I see the news. I know. I feel it too. Do what you can in your local town, school, religious place of worship. Contact your representative, contact your senator. Do whatever you can do to advocate for the well-being of your neighbors. I'm a Christian. I'm a Jesus follower. And the Jesus I read about in the Gospels tells us that of these we do to Jesus. The Jesus I follow tells us that we have an obligation to welcome the stranger, to liberate the oppressed, to love our neighbor as ourselves. No exceptions. This is not... Let me just be clear for maybe some of the moderates out there. This is not a liberal thing for me, okay? I am not sold out to the Democratic Party. I'm sold out to the way of Jesus as much as I can be at any given time. And if I read the 4 gospel accounts and I read the words of Jesus, it's pretty freaking clear that we have an obligation to stand with the oppressed, to fight for their liberation, and to advocate for more just and fair systems that allow people to partake in their own human flourishing. And there's no good reason why America cannot be a beacon of hope for people all around the world who want to find a better life for themselves. There just isn't. There isn't. We have plenty of room. We are the world's richest country. These are decisions made intentionally to keep people in poverty. These are decisions made intentionally to keep people out of the country. It doesn't have to be that way. There are plenty of jobs. There is plenty of room. And can we also say that when we have other people from different parts of the world here, we become a better country? We learn more about the world around us? I'm not sure about you, friends, but some of the biggest moments in my life were meeting people from different parts of the world with a completely different way of seeing the world. It blew my mind that people exist in different frameworks with their own cultures and their own, just cultural norms. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. I'm super lucky to live in New Jersey, a very diverse state. I mean, it's such an ethnically diverse state. And man, like even being able to go to like different restaurants and get all kinds of different food experiences, you know, from people who are from India, who are from Turkey, who are from China, who are from Vietnam, and be able to partake in their culture, right, in their food and get to know their story is amazing. It's amazing. We are better. We are better together, not apart. And Christian nationalism is built on the framework of a monolith and making things as assimilated as possible and erasing cultural identities in favor of this thing that we call whiteness. And it's important to fight against that. Hey, friends, I'm so glad that you're here. Thanks for joining me for this live. The Tim and April Show is coming back next Thursday. We will be live on that channel at the Tim and April Show. Would love your comments. Please leave them in the comments below. I'll try and look through them. Yes, pluralism is hottest. That was a chat that just came in. That was hilarious. Have a great day, friends. Talk to you all later on. See ya.